The sun in the village of Olo was a persistent creditor, always demanding its due in sweat. Under the shade of an ancient dusty umbrella, Amina, a woman of 32 with a laugh that sounded like cracking firewood, served the best red in the district. Her fried plantains were caramelized to perfection, and her bean stew, swimming in zesty palm oil, was the stuff of local legend. One could hear the clinking of her oversized metal spoons, while she fanned the charcoal fire until it glowed like a fallen star. She is a woman of granite and ginger. She lost her husband to a fever that took his breath but left his debts. But for a week, Amina's peace was disturbed by two pairs of eyes. Across the road, sitting on an overturned concrete slab, were two boys. The older one, Ofiko, was barely 9, the younger, Wameh, was perhaps 6. Their shirts were more holes than fabric, and their hair was tinged with the brownish hue of malnutrition. Their skin was ashy, their ribs like a xylophone played by poverty, and their eyes too large for their hollow faces. They didn't beg. They just watched. They watched the steam rise from the pot, they watched the rhythmic sizzle of the plantain hitting the oil. At dusk, when Amina packed her blackened pots, the boys would scurry over like shadows to pick the scorched bits of bean crust and bruised plantain skins from the dirt. On the 8th day, Amina's heart, which she tried to keep as tough as overcooked meat, finally softened. She told herself, "I am a widow, not a charity." On the 7th night, she saw Wameh crying silently, not from a wound, but from the hollow ache of an empty stomach. Her resistance shattered. As they approached for their nightly scavenging, she slammed her ladle down. "Oi! Are you goat? Why are you eating from the ground?" she shouted, though her eyes were wet. Ofiko stood in front of his brother. With a voice raspy from thirst, he told their story. 2 years ago, their parents had boarded a bus for the City of Gold to find work in the construction boom, promising to send for them. They were left with their grandmother, a woman whose only wealth was her stories. But the letters never came. The money never came. Then, 3 months ago, the grandmother's heart simply tired of waiting and stopped. "Our uncle says we are extra mouths he didn't plant crops for," Ofiko whispered. "He told us to find our own belly." "From tomorrow," she grunted, "you show up at 6 a.m. If you're going to eat my food, you're going to earn it. And wash those faces. You look like you've been wrestling with charcoal." For the next 5 years, the trio became a landmark. The boys became Amina's engines. They would haul water from the stream, their small muscles hardening under the weight. They became expert hagglers, knowing exactly which pepper seller was trying to cheat Auntie Amina. Since school was a luxury she couldn't afford, Amina taught them market math. If a man buys 3 portions of beans and gives you a 50 note, and he wants extra plantain, how much change do you give him so we don't go hungry? She did more than feed them. When Wameh got a deep gash from a rusted nail, she spent her profit for the week on real antiseptic and bandages. On New Year's Eve, she would sew them new shirts out of high-quality flour sacks she'd bleached and dyed indigo. She gave them dignity, wrapped in the scent of fried ginger. At 15 and 12, the boys felt the pull of the horizon. "Auntie, we must find them," Ofiko said. "And we must find a way to pay you back." Amina gave them her blessing and a heavy bag of fried chips for the road and told them, "The city has many lights, but don't let them blind you to the stars." But the city was not gold, it was concrete and indifference. Their arrival was a baptism of fire. Within an hour, their small bundle of clothes was stolen by a friendly guide. They slept under bridges where the mosquitoes sounded like fighter jets. They spent months searching for their parents' names in records. They eventually find a retired bus driver at a dusty station who remembers the Red Tuesday 10 years ago. He describes the bus ambush. It wasn't just a robbery, it was a massacre. The boys realized their parents died trying to get back to them. They weep, the city rain washing away their last childhood hope. The most crushing blow, however, came at the Central Police Archives. A sympathetic old clerk dug through dusty logs of unidentified incidents from years prior. He found the entry, route for express. Armed robbery. Bus set ablaze. No survivors. Their parents hadn't abandoned them. They were ghost hunting a highway they never finished traveling. The boys didn't return. Shame is a heavy load, and they refused to go back to Amina empty-handed. They became street kings of a different sort. Ofiko carried cement bags until his shoulders bled. Wameh repaired broken radios in a scrapyard, sleeping inside an old car chassis. They face the hunger again, but this time they are fueled by the memory of Amina's beans. One afternoon, a luxury car broke down in the middle of a monsoon rain. The driver, a frantic tech executive, was missing a crucial presentation because his laptop had died and he had no charger for the specific report. Wameh, who had spent his night scavenging and repairing discarded electronics in a slum workshop, ran to his shack. He returned with a Franken charger he'd soldered together from scraps. It worked. The executive didn't just give him a tip, he gave him an apprenticeship. Wameh's natural market math evolved into coding and hardware engineering. Wameh brings Ofiko along as the head of security and logistics. They don't just work, they outwork everyone. Kofi started a trucking empire. Wameh develops a mobile app for farmers. They moved from shacks to penthouses. But as the money grew, the memory of Olo began to fade behind a wall of busyness and expensive champagne. 15 years passed. The Bean Boys became the Empire Brothers. Back in the village, Amina grew old. Her joints ached when the rain threatened. She still set out 2 small stools every morning, though they remained empty. "They are gone, Amina," the neighbors would say. "The city eats children. Like their parents, the road took them." Amina would just stir her beans. "They have my plantains in their blood," she'd mutter. "They are too sweet to be forgotten." But in the quiet of the night, she feared the neighbors were right. Every time a bus passed, she looked for 2 tall men. She assumed they were dead. She continues to cook, but the spice was gone because her heart wasn't in it. She lived on the kindness of neighbors who remembered her better days. She began to save her coins for a headstone for 2 boys who had no graves. In the city during a lavish Sunday brunch, Wameh's wife looked at the gourmet red on her fine china. "You always say this is almost as good as the woman's in Olo. Why have we never met her?" The brothers froze. The city fog, the haze of chasing wealth, lifted. They realized with a pang of guilt that they hadn't sent word in a decade. Success had made them busy, business had made them cruel. They realized they had become rich men with poor memories. The plan. They didn't just send a car. They organized a convoy of gratitude. One Tuesday, the quiet village of Olo was jolted awake by the roar of engines. 12 black SUVs and a refrigerated truck pulled up to Amina's humble stall. The villagers gathered, expecting a politician. Instead, 2 tall broad-shouldered men in tailored suits stepped out. They walked through the red dust, ignoring their polished shoes, and knelt at the feet of an old woman. "Auntie," Ofiko said, his voice breaking. "The engines have returned to help you pack. Your boys have come to pay for the plantains." In grand style, they unveiled a surprise. Behind the SUVs was a construction crew. In 1 month, they built a modern and elegant home for her, and provided a retirement fund that made her the wealthiest woman in the district. The hand that feeds you when you are a shadow deserves to hold your gold when you become the sun. Never let the height of your success make you forget the floor where you once ate. Success is a tall tree, but if the roots forget the soil that watered them during the drought, the tree will eventually fall in the wind. Like and subscribe.